Now, that is a human being. This is a banana. We all know human beings, and we all know bananas. We have been living with each other and for each other for a long time, always thinking that we have nothing in common, right? What could a banana and a human being have in common? Nothing, right? Well, a few months ago, I realized actually humans and bananas are very similar. In fact, and this is scientifically proven, over 50% of a human DNA is the same as 50% of a banana's DNA. So that got me thinking, if 50% of our DNA is the same as 50% of a banana's, then half a banana should be just like a human being. Well, that's at least what I thought. But then I looked at both, and I realized, actually, we are very different. And then I asked myself, why are we so different? What is missing in this other banana half that we humans have? What makes us unique, not just compared to a banana, but compared to any other living being? Well, first of all, compared to any other living being, be it an animal, a plant, or a banana indeed, we are not what you would say stupid, at least most of us. We're clever, right? Sure, that wasn't always the case. Millions of years ago, we used to be just as, if not more, foolish than any other animal. That was until, through sheer luck, one of our ancestors had some weird brain mutations that caused his brain capacity to increase massively. Now, thinking about that, poor guy, right? He must have been terribly depressed, sitting there surrounded by idiots, having to listen to their incomprehensible sounds, while he, who was actually intelligent, was trying to write some poems or figuring out a new algebraic formula. Now, yes, that's probably not what an evolutionary biologist would tell you about how we came to be. But that's not the point. The point is that that one guy, millions of years ago, was the difference between a world that is dominated by chimpanzees or dolphins or goats, who are all apparently quite intelligent, and our world today. So that's the simple answer. We are different because we are intelligent. And I can go even further. We are different because of our ability to use reason. Now, I could walk off stage right now, having told you that humans are unique for their ability to be rational, and no one in this room would be any wiser. Because, yes, it is a characterizing feature for human beings. But we've been talking about rationality for far too long. I mean, Plato talked about it. Many centuries later, Kant was still talking about it. And at some point, it just gets boring. Plus, what will we do when artificial intelligence, which solely relies on the use of reason and logic, comes around? Why not stop focusing on reason? What if we went beyond reason? Because, let's be honest, we aren't that rational after all. We always have voices in our heads. Voices that influence our choices. Voices that constantly advise us to take irrational decisions. In my eyes, there are two voices that stand out. Two that are rooted deep inside every one of us. Two that promise to lead us to the end goal of happiness. And both seem to work, at least to a certain extent. Number 1, addictions. Now, don't get me wrong, we're surely not the only ones that get addicted to stuff. Animals surely do, plants probably as well. I mean, this is in no way scientifically proven, but you may give it a try to water a rose with some whiskey and see how it will react. However, differently to that rose, we have seen many people fall because of their addictions. We know the negative effects of our addictive behaviors, and yet we keep coming back to them. Why is that so? Now, I know very little about addictions, but I've had some myself, just like everyone in this room. And I've realized that they're very easy to create. Of course, there are many factors influencing how addictive an activity can be. But one seems to come up over and over again. Whatever a human is addicted to, the satisfaction generated from that activity is always greater than the effort that you have to put into it. The greater this difference is, of course, the more addictive the activity will be. Now, to contradict this, you will find marathon runners that say, "Oh, I can't stop running," or writers who claim to be addicted to writing. And yes, I've thought about these people for a while, and I've come to 3 conclusions. A, they're not humans, they're just some completely undiscovered species that just pretends to be human. B, they're just showing off. And C, they are indeed addicted, and they confirm that every rule has its exceptions. Now, getting back to more common addictions, though. There are the usual ones that, believe it or not, have been around forever. Drug abuse, alcohol abuse, or even overeating. These all involve the consumption of substances that lead to some change in the chemistry of our brains. But what about the addictions that are purely based on the manipulation of our emotions? What about social media and Netflix and video games? They are the most common addictions among teenagers. They seem so harmless, and yet, once we start consuming them, we can't stop. We can only think of that one series that we're watching, of that one level that we want to achieve. We stop enjoying anything that isn't involved with their consumption, and our happiness starts relying purely on our addictions. But that's exactly what all these platforms are designed for. They are designed so that we feel like we need them, like without them we would be empty. And we can't stop consuming them because we're addicted. All these big companies are exploiting this completely human behavior. They're exploiting our addictive behavior. They work in perfect alignment with the addiction formula. Very little effort and very high satisfaction. How easy is it to keep scrolling down on Instagram? How easy is it to not click away Netflix and let the autoplay do its magic? Now, I'm not telling you to remove your addictions. If you have one and you enjoy it, you feel like you're genuinely fulfilled, like you're happy, feel free, continue. What I'm getting at is that there might be an alternative way of getting happy. Remember how I told you that there were 2 voices in our heads? Well, here comes number 2. Creativity. Creativity is defined as the use of imagination or original ideas to create something new. And then I would add myself, a person's creativity reaches its peak once he has given a TEDx talk talking about creativity. But let's leave that aside. As we see, creativity is a very broad term. It refers to the creation of anything. Anywhere you put energy into, creating something new is a creative process. Anywhere two ideas are combined to come up with a new one is a creative process. Creativity has been essential for humans for a long time. It was key in our development. The invention of the first wheel required creativity. The building of the pyramids in Egypt required creativity. And so did the invention of paper, the building of the Colosseum in Rome, the painting of the Mona Lisa, or the composing of the Ninth Symphony. These are all the result of creative processes. Processes that require huge amounts of energy and that left their creators with huge amounts of satisfaction. And us with great pieces of work, of art. Okay, our creations might not be of the level of those mentioned before, but we can still create. Whether it's writing, painting, or indeed giving a TEDx talk. We all have it inside us, but sometimes we just don't get to be creative because we're too lazy. We don't like putting energy into stuff. We prefer the comfort of our bedroom whilst absorbing someone else's creation because that's exactly what's happening. All the addictions that I was talking of prior are addictions to someone else's behavior, creation. And especially since the internet came around, the world has been getting divided more and more into those who create and those who consume. People who express their originality through their creative ideas, and people who haven't found their own creative expression and therefore consume someone else's. Again, if you're addicted to something and you feel like it makes you happy, like you're genuinely fulfilled, continue, feel free. But maybe you can find another way of fulfillment, another way that doesn't lead to failure. Because all humans have these two voices in our heads, and most likely one will silence the other. Thank you.